The space station floated like a giant metal beast in the cold black sky. Inside its long, noisy halls, traders and aliens of every kind walked, laughed, and shouted. Some sold weapons, some sold food. And some sold things far worse. Near the back of the station where few people went, there was a dark corner, and in that corner, there was a cage. Inside that cage sat a girl. She was not like the other aliens. Her skin was soft and pale, glowing faintly under the flickering lights. Her eyes were big and purple, once bright, now dull and tired. Her hair, silver and long, looked dirty and long, looked dirty and tangled. She wore torn clothes, barely enough to cover her thin body. She sat in silence, her knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tight around herself. Her face had no hope, no light, just silence and pain. People walked by, some laughing, some throwing trash at her. "Look at that thing," one alien said, "still alive." Another laughed, "Barely, I think it breathes just to suffer." No one fed her, no one cared. She was thrown there weeks ago by a rich alien lord who said she was a failed pet, too quiet, too weak, too useless. Now, she was forgotten, left to die slowly in front of everyone, and they laughed. Then one day, a human walked by. His name was Jack, a mechanic from Earth. He was tall, with short brown hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple jacket, oil stains on his gloves. He was here to fix ship engines, not get involved with anyone. But when he passed the cage, he stopped. He stared, his face full of shock and something else, sadness. He looked at the girl, then at the aliens walking past. "Why is she in there?" he asked. A vendor nearby laughed. "Just trash. Boss threw her away. She's not worth feeding." Jack's jaw tightened. "How long has she been like this?" "Long enough," the vendor said, chewing a red fruit. "Don't waste your time." Jack didn't say anything. He walked closer to the cage. The girl didn't lift her head. He knelt down, trying to see her eyes. She didn't move. There was a small bowl in the corner of the cage, empty, dusty, dry. He looked around, then slowly reached into his pocket. He took out a protein bar, nothing special, but real food. He pushed it through the bars. Gently, still, she didn't react. "I'll come back," Jack said softly. His voice was low, but kind. That made her move, just a little. Her head turned and her lips opened, so quietly. He almost didn't hear. She said, "No one ever does." Jack stood up, looking around the hall. He saw only cold faces, laughter, deals, trades, and life but no care. He walked away, but something heavy followed him inside, a feeling he couldn't shake. That night, he lay in his tiny room. The hum of the ship engines echoed through the walls, but Jack kept thinking of the girl, her eyes, her voice, that small broken whisper. No one ever does. He sat up, heart pounding. He knew he shouldn't interfere. Station law was clear, discarded. Aliens were not people. They were failed products. Property, waste, touching them, helping them, was forbidden. But Jack didn't care. He stood, pulled on his jacket, and picked up a small food pouch. Then he left his room, walking fast through the dark halls. He stayed in the shadows, hiding from cameras and guards. When he reached the cage, he saw her again, still sitting, still silent, but this time her eyes opened slowly. When she saw him, Jack knelt again, pushing the pouch through the bars. "Eat," he whispered. She stared at it, not moving. Then, slowly, she reached out. Her fingers shook as she touched the bag. She opened it and began to eat, slowly, carefully. Tears fell down her face as she chewed. It was the first real food she had in days. Jack watched, his hands tight in fists. How could they do this to her? He didn't even know her name, but he knew one thing: this was wrong. As she finished the food, she looked at him again, Her eyes were clearer now, still full of pain, but now with something else. Hope. Jack smiled gently. "I'll come again," he said. Then he stood and walked away into the dark behind him. The girl sat with the empty pouch in her lap. She didn't speak, but in her mind, one thought echoed. He came back. Maybe this time, someone meant it. The next night came fast. But for Jack, it felt like the longest day of his life. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl, her pale skin, her shaking hands, her quiet voice. He tried to focus on repairing a broken ship engine, but every time he blinked, her face came back to his mind, weak, forgotten, and yet still alive, still hoping. Maybe, just maybe, someone cared. He finished his work early and slipped away from the busy deck. The station was louder than usual. Some festival was going on. Aliens danced, drank glowing liquids, and threw money into the air. No one noticed him move through the shadows. That made things easier. He walked fast, his heart racing in his pocket. He carried something more than food tonight. When he reached the cage, the hallway was quiet. Just a single guard sitting far away, half asleep. Jack knelt beside the cage. The girl saw him and slowly moved closer. Her steps were weak, her body still too thin, but her eyes were clearer. They locked onto his with something he didn't expect. "Trust, I told you I'd come," Jack whispered. The girl nodded. "You did." He pulled out the warm food pack and pushed it through the bars. She took it, her fingers brushing his for just a moment. Her touch was ice cold. Jack's chest ached. She sat and ate, slower this time, trying not to waste a single bite. Jack looked around and leaned closer. "What's your name?" he asked. She blinked, lips shaking. "Alira." She said, "It means light." Jack smiled. "Alira," he repeated. "That's beautiful." She tilted her head. "No one ever used it before." Suddenly, a voice shouted in the distance, "Hey, who's there?" Jack froze, eyes wide. The guard stood up. Looking in their direction, Jack ducked low, heart pounding. He pulled out a tiny scanner from his jacket and aimed it at the cage. With a soft beep, the lock flickered red, then green. He whispered, "This won't work forever." Alira looked confused. Jack gently opened the door, just a crack. "Come out for a moment," he said. Her body trembled, but she stepped forward. She didn't run, didn't scream. She stood before him like a ghost stepping into the world. The guard's steps grew louder. Jack grabbed her hand and pulled her into a nearby storage room. They hid behind tall crates. The smell of metal and dust filled the air. Alira's hand was still in his, small and shaking. She whispered, "They'll hurt you for this." Jack looked at her. "Let them try." The guard passed the hallway and grunted. "Might have been nothing," he mumbled. Walking back, silence. Returned, Jack and Alira stayed hidden, hearts racing. After some time, he whispered, "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "Why do you care?" Jack didn't answer right away. He looked at her face, so young, so hurt. "I saw you," he said softly. "And I couldn't walk away." Alira bit her lip, her voice cracking. "They called me broken." "Useless." Jack leaned closer. They were wrong. He reached into his jacket again and gave her something small, a thin blanket, old but warm. She took it like it was treasure, her eyes filled with tears. "No one has given me anything," she whispered. Jack looked away, ashamed of what this place had become. "This station isn't kind," he said, "but I can be." They waited in silence until it felt safe. Then he led her back to the cage. She stepped inside on her own. He closed the door and locked it again with his scanner. No one would know, but everything had changed. Before leaving, Jack crouched and whispered, "Tomorrow I'll bring you medicine." Her eyes widened. "You're risking everything." Jack smiled sadly. "You're worth something." Alira reached through the bars and touched his cheek. A moment passed between them, quiet, fragile, real, as Jack walked away. He didn't feel like just a mechanic anymore. He felt like someone who had found a reason. Alira watched until he was gone, her blanket wrapped tight around her. And for the first time in many days, she felt warm, not just on her skin, but in her heart. In the dark corner of a cruel station, a spark had been lit, a forbidden act of kindness, one that would change both their lives forever. The next few nights passed quietly. Jack returned every time, careful, silent. Always watching the cameras, he brought food, warm drinks, bandages. Even a tiny light device so Alira could see better. He knew it was dangerous, but something in him wouldn't let go. This wasn't just kindness anymore. It felt like something deeper, something human. Alira changed slowly. Her skin grew less pale, her hands steadier. She wrapped herself in the blanket Jack gave her and sat up straight when he came. Her eyes met his more often. And sometimes she smiled. They talked, always in whispers, always. In the dark, Alira spoke of her homeworld, a planet with 3 moons, glowing forests, and rivers that sang when the wind passed. I was born in the hills of Tereth, she said, voice soft, there. We live with the trees, not above them, Jack. Listened, fascinated. Why were you taken? He asked one night. Alira looked down. My village was attacked. They came for rare crystals. She continued, they found me hiding and thought I was exotic. They sold me to a noble who kept me as a pet. She clenched her fists like a toy. Jack's jaw tightened. How could they do that? He said. Alira shrugged. It's common for species like mine. We look delicate, soft, so they assume we are weak. They don't believe we feel pain like them. Jack leaned closer to the cage. You do feel it? He said. I can see it. Alira looked at him with wide eyes. You're the first to say that. That night, Jack brought a small mirror. Alira touched her face as she looked into it. My hair is a mess, she said, laughing softly. Jack grinned. You still look better than half the traders on this station. She laughed again. This time louder. It echoed down the hall. Jack froze. Quiet, he whispered. Alira covered her mouth, eyes wide. They waited. Breath held. No one came. The silence returned, but their hearts beat fast. You need to be careful. She said, serious now. They'll punish you. Jack nodded. I know, but I won't stop. He pulled out a small notebook, handwritten. Inside were maps, door codes, back corridors. This place has tunnels, he said. Old repair lines from years ago, they never closed them properly. Alira tilted her head. Why are you telling me this? Jack took a deep breath. Because one day, I want to get you out. Alira's hands shook. No one escapes here, she whispered. They'll chase us, or kill you. Jack smiled. Let them try. I've survived worse, Alira whispered back. So have I. That moment felt different. Not like a rescue mission, but like 2 broken souls standing in the same storm, trying to shield each other from the cold. The next day, something changed. Jack walked past the cage and noticed a group of aliens standing nearby. They weren't laughing. They were whispering, watching her. One of them said, she looks better. Someone's feeding her. Jack didn't stop walking, but his heart dropped. He knew he had been too kind, too visible. Now others were noticing. He came that night, face tight. We have to move fast, he said. Alira looked scared. What happened? Others are watching, he said. I think someone knows. She stood up, her strength returning slowly. Then tell me what to do, she said. I won't slow you down. Jack felt something swell in his chest. Pride. You won't, he said. You're stronger than anyone here. They planned quietly. Jack would create a distraction in the main engine bay. A small explosion, harmless. just enough to pull the guards away while they ran through the side tunnel, then into the docking sector. There, an old cargo ship awaited, half broken but still flight-ready. Jack had worked on its engine himself. No one used it any more perfect for escape. But what if we're caught before we get to the ship? Alira asked. Jack looked at her with calm eyes. Then I'll stand in front of you. And I'll make sure they never touch you again. Alira looked at him in silence. Her voice broke softly. No one's ever stood in front of me. Jack touched the bars gently. You're not property, he said. You're Alira. From Tereth, and you deserve to live. She placed her hand against his, separated by metal, but closer than they had ever been. Jack's voice was firm. Tomorrow night, be ready. As he left, his heart pounded, not from fear, but from something else, something burning. This wasn't just saving a girl. It was fighting for what was right. And for the first time, Alira believed it too, in the silence. Of the cage, she whispered to herself, My name is Alira. I am not a thing. I am light. Asterisk, the morning light didn't reach the dark back hallway where Alira's cage stood. But something else arrived instead. Trouble. Jack came earlier than usual, heart beating fast. He had everything ready. The distraction device was in his bag. The ship was half-fueled, and the plan was solid. He only needed one more night, but when he turned the corner, his chest tightened. The cage was open. And it was empty. His feet stopped, eyes scanning the floor. The blanket was still there, ripped. The bowl was cracked. Food spilled across the metal. Something bad had happened. His hands clenched. Where was she? Two alien traders stood nearby, laughing to themselves. Jack forced his breath steady and walked up. Where's the girl that was in that cage? He asked, trying to sound casual. One trader sneered. The pale one. She caused too much noise. She's gone now. Thrown out with the waste. Jack's blood ran cold. What do you mean waste? The second alien laughed. What else do you do with broken pets? They dumped her in the disposal sector. Jack turned and ran. He didn't care who saw him. Didn't care about the guards, the laws, or the cameras. He just ran. The disposal sector was down 3 floors. It stank of oil, rust, and something worse. Rot and something worse rot. This was where broken bots, food scraps, and forgotten things were thrown away. But she wasn't a thing. She was Alira. He searched through crates, bags, piles of broken tech. Then he saw something move. A foot, small, pale, and trembling. Alira. He shouted, dropping to his knees. She was there, curled behind a broken panel. Her face bruised, her lip bleeding. Her eyes opened slowly. Jack. She whispered. He gathered her gently into his arms. Her body was cold and limp, her breath shallow. Jack's heart cracked. I've got you, he whispered. I've got you now. He wrapped her in his jacket and carried her through the empty halls. He knew where to go. His room. No one would check there. He avoided main paths. Took old repair routes. Every step felt too slow. Every breath felt like a race against time. When they reached his room, he locked the door fast, laid her on the bed, and opened his med kit. He cleaned her wounds, gave her water, and held her hand. She winced in pain, but her grip was strong. You came for me, she said weakly. Always, Jack replied. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat by her side, watching her, guarding her. His mind raced with thoughts. The guards would look for her. The traders would talk. His time was running out. But so was hers. If he waited too long, she would die. She needed real help, food, care, safety. And none of that existed on this station. In the soft silence, Alira opened her eyes again. Why do you keep risking yourself? She asked. Jack leaned closer. Because when I look at you, he said, I don't see a pet. I see someone who deserves to live. Tears slid down her cheeks. No one's ever said that to me. Jack took her hand. Well now, someone. Has she tried to sit up, but winced? Jack helped her gently, propping pillows behind her. I can't stay here, she whispered. They'll find me. Jack nodded. I know, he said. That's why tomorrow night we leave. She looked at him, eyes filled with fear and hope. Will we make it? Jack didn't lie. I don't know, he said, but we'll try. He showed her a map he had drawn, escape paths, hidden doors. He explained the plan again. This time slower. Alira listened carefully, memorizing every part. When he finished, she touched the map and said, Together. Jack nodded. Together. Then she asked something that surprised him. Do you have a name for your home? He smiled. Earth. She repeated it, tasting the word. It sounds warm. He laughed quietly. It is. Sometimes. Alira looked up at him and whispered, Will they accept me? Jack looked straight into her eyes. If they don't, he said, then they don't deserve to call themselves human. A long silence filled the room. But it wasn't heavy. It was peaceful, like a calm before a storm, as the station lights dimmed for night cycle. Jack watched over her, his jacket wrapped around her small frame, his eyes never closing, his heart already set. He would get her out, no matter what it cost. And in that quiet, Alira whispered one last word before sleep. Home. Jack barely blinked as the station lights dimmed. The night cycle had started. But his mind was busy. He sat beside Alira, still watching her sleep. Her face, though bruised, looked calm. Her breathing was deeper now, stronger. She was healing. He checked the map again, marked every tunnel, every possible camera. He only had one chance. If they were caught, there would be no mercy. Helping a discarded alien was considered stealing property, punishable by death. But Jack didn't care. To him, she wasn't property. She was a person. Alira slowly opened her eyes. Her voice came soft. You didn't leave. Jack looked at her and smiled. Of course not, he said. You're safe here. She sat up with his help, wincing a little. Then she noticed a small object beside her, a photo. She picked it up and stared. A young boy and a woman were in the picture, smiling under a tree. Your family? She asked. Jack nodded, his eyes distant. My mother and little brother, he said. Back on Earth, do they know where you are? She asked. Jack shook his head. No, I haven't spoken to them in years. He hesitated, then added, I came here to start over. I didn't expect to find something worth fighting for. He looked at her. But then I met you. Alira held the photo tightly. Your family looks kind, she whispered. Jack smiled. They would have loved you. Her eyes shimmered. Maybe one day, she said. I'll get to meet them. He nodded. I want that too. The room fell into silence for a moment. Only the soft hum of the station echoed. Then, a sharp noise outside the door made them freeze. Voices, heavy boots walking past. Jack moved quickly. Turning off the small lights, he placed his hand gently over Alira's mouth. Not to hurt, but to protect. She stayed still in his arms. Her heartbeat thudded against his chest. The voices faded. They both let out slow breaths. They're looking for me, she said. Jack nodded. Yes, and that means we move tonight. She sat up straighter. I'm ready. Jack opened a small metal case. Inside were tools, a stolen guard badge, and 2 plain black cloaks. He handed one to her. Put this on. Keep your hood up. She touched the fabric. It was soft, clean, warm. She looked at him and asked, Why do you do all this for me? He paused, searching for the right words. I don't know how to explain it, he said. But when I saw you in that cage, something inside me snapped. It wasn't pity, he added quickly. It was something louder, like... My heart refused to stay quiet. She looked down, then softly whispered, Mine too. They prepared quickly. Jack checked the timer on his small explosive. It was harmless, just loud enough to cause panic. He would place it near the engine core. That would draw the guards away from the cargo dock, where the escape ship waited. "You have to trust me," Jack said. "Once the explosion hits, we run." Alira nodded. Her eyes filled with fire now. "I do trust you," she said, "more than anyone in my life." They left the room in silence, moving through the empty side corridors. They kept low, hiding from cameras. Jack disabled 2 sensors with a flick of his wrist. They reached the service lift. Alira squeezed his hand. "This is really happening?" she said. Jack looked at her with a quiet smile. "Yes," he said, "you're going home." They reached the engine sector. Jack moved fast. Placing the device behind a fuel barrel, he activated the timer 2 minutes. They ran, cloaks swaying behind them like shadows. They ducked into a side tunnel, just as the explosion roared. The station shook. Alarms blared, lights flashed red, and loud voices shouted. Perfect chaos. Now. Jack yelled, grabbing Alira's hand. They ran, hearts racing, feet pounding down the old tunnel. Through a half-broken maintenance door, the air was thick with smoke and panic. Guards ran the other way. Chasing the noise, they reached the cargo dock. The old transport ship sat quietly, like a forgotten animal. Jack opened the hatch with his access code. They climbed in, gasping for breath. Jack sealed the door and powered the ship. Alira looked around, her eyes wide. "It's real," she said. "We made it." But then, a sharp sound hit the air. Bang, a fist slamming on the outer hull. Jack's heart jumped. He looked at the screen. One guard stood outside, looking directly at the ship. His weapon raised. "Don't move," Jack whispered. Alira grabbed his arm. "What if he comes in?" Jack pulled out a wrench. "Then I stop him." But Alira stood, shaking her head. "No," she said. "You saved me. Now let me help too." Outside, the guard moved closer to the door. Inside, their hearts beat like drums, and time slowed. The escape wasn't over yet. The guard outside stood still, his weapon aimed at the ship's door. Jack stared at the blinking screen, eyes sharp, breath shallow. Alira crouched beside him, holding her cloak tight. "We can't wait," she whispered. "If he calls for backup, we're trapped." Jack nodded, mind racing. The engines were ready. Fuel was low, but enough to reach a nearby moon. But the guard was the problem. One alarm, one message, and everything would end. Then Alira stood slowly, her face steady. "What are you doing?" Jack asked, grabbing her arm. "I'll distract him," she said calmly. "He might not shoot me right away." Jack's eyes widened. "No," he said. "Hey, I didn't come this far to let you die now." She touched his hand gently. "You saved me from that cage," she whispered. "Now I get to save you." Before Jack could stop her, she slipped out the side hatch. The outer air was cold, and the metal beneath her feet burned from the explosion nearby. The guard turned quickly. Surprised, Alira raised her hands slowly, stepping forward. "I escaped," she said. "I won't run." The guard blinked, then smiled. "Good," he said. "That makes it easy." He raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Jack burst from the ship's door with a pipe in his hands. He charged the guard and struck hard. The weapon fell, clattering across the floor. The guard spun, swinging wildly. Jack ducked, then punched him in the gut. Alira backed away, eyes wide. The guard tackled Jack, slamming him to the ground. They rolled across the dock, fists flying. The guard was stronger. But Jack had something more: purpose, and something to protect. He grabbed a wire from his belt and looped it around. The guard's arm pulled hard. The guard screamed, twisting in pain. Jack kicked him off, stood, and slammed the pipe against the floor near the guard's head. Not to kill, but to stop. The guard lay there, groaning, barely conscious. Jack breathed. Hard blood on his lip, Alira rushed to him. "You're hurt." He smiled through the pain. "Just a scratch." "Get inside," he added. "We don't have long." They dragged the guard behind a crate and ran back into the ship. Jack sealed the hatch tight. Warning lights flashed. Someone must have seen the fight. "We have less than 2 minutes," Jack said, jumping into the pilot's seat. Alira slid into the co-seat, eyes fixed forward. She had never flown before. But her heart was ready. Jack's hands moved fast. He activated old thrusters. Cracked the code for the docking clamps. The ship shook as it pulled free from the station's grip. Outside, alarms screamed louder. Alira looked back at the door. "They'll fire on us," she said. Jack nodded. "Unless we get into hyperspeed first." "But it's an old ship. It's never jumped before." He gave her a crooked grin. "Then let's be the first." The ship lifted, rising into open space on the screen. 3 patrol ships lit up. Red lines targeted them. Alira gripped the edge of her seat. "I don't want to die in the dark," she whispered. Jack's voice was steady. "You won't." The patrol ships fired. Lasers zipped past them, shaking. The hull, one blast hit their side sparks, flew from the control board. Jack shouted, "Hold on." He slammed his fist against the power core. The engine roared louder, and the ship jumped forward, but they weren't fast enough yet. More blasts came, closer this time. One patrol ship was closing in fast. Jack turned. Sharply, dodging just in time, he whispered to the ship, "Come on, just one jump." He reached over and pulled a final lever. The engine screamed, metal grinding. Then the stars stretched. The world blinked, and everything turned silent. They were gone, out of reach, into hyperspace. Alira fell back into her seat, gasping. Jack leaned over the console. Exhausted, they were alive. The stars outside were calm now, peaceful. Alira turned to him. "You did it," she said softly. Jack looked at her with a tired smile. "We did it." She stood, walked over to him, and gently touched his face. "You saved me again." Jack held her hand against his cheek. "You saved me too," he whispered. They sat together in silence. No noise, no orders, no cages, only freedom. Jack opened a small panel and checked the star chart. "There's a colony 2 systems away," he said. "Human and alien mixed, maybe." A place to start again. Alira leaned her head on his shoulder. "I've never had a place," she said. He turned and kissed her forehead gently. "Then we'll make one." The ship flew quietly through the stars. Behind them, the station shrank into the dark. Ahead, the unknown waited. But they weren't afraid. Not anymore. Because they weren't alone. And now, their hearts beat for something more than survival. They beat for each other. The stars outside the ship glowed soft and endless. Inside, Alira sat by the window. Legs pulled to her chest. Her bruises had faded. Her eyes looked alive. She wore one of Jack's old jackets. It hung loosely on her small frame, but it made her smile because it smelled like warmth, like safety. Like him, Jack entered the room, holding 2 metal cups. "Soup's ready," he said. Alira took the cup, her hands steady now. She tasted it and smiled. Still better than station food. She joked. Jack chuckled. Low bar? The ship floated quietly in hyperspace. Its systems old but holding. Together, Jack had fixed most of the damage, but his injuries still ached. His ribs were bruised. His shoulders stiff, but when he saw Alira laugh, none of it mattered. "Tell me more about Earth," she said, sipping slowly. Jack leaned back. "It's loud, crowded, but you'd like the mountains. They rise into the clouds and smell like pine trees." Alira's eyes lit up. "Trees," she whispered. "I miss the sound of leaves." Jack watched her, heart full. He had once thought he'd never care again. He'd left Earth to escape memories. A broken family, a broken life. But now he felt whole, all because of her. A blinking light appeared on the console. Jack stood, checked the screen, and smiled. "We're here," he said. Alira stood beside him, her breath catching, out the window. A blue-green planet slowly came into view. Bright skies, clouds like cotton, oceans glowing under sunlight. "This is New Aurora," Jack said. "Human-led colony. Open trade, mixed species, no slavery, no cages." Alira couldn't look away. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Jack glanced at her. "You deserve beauty." They landed on a small pad near the edge of the settlement. Few people watched, curious, but not unfriendly. A guard approached, human, dressed in light armor. Jack stepped forward. Showing his ID engineer, "Emergency landing," he explained. The guard scanned the ID, then looked at Alira. "Is she with you?" he asked. Jack looked at her and nodded. "She's under my care." The guard paused, then nodded slowly. "You'll have to speak to the coordinator." They were led to a white building, clean and quiet. Inside sat an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes. She looked at Alira, then at Jack. "Tell me everything," she said, and Jack did. He spoke about the cage, the beatings, the station. He told her how he fed Alira, how they escaped. The woman listened, never interrupting. When Jack finished, Alira stepped forward. "I don't want to be hidden anymore," she said. "I want to live, to be free." The woman nodded slowly. "You came to the right place," she said. "This colony accepts refugees, but more than that, we accept truth." She handed Jack 2 cards, temporary IDs, she explained. "You'll need to register officially, but for now, you're safe." Alira held the card in her hands, staring at her name, just her name. No tag, no number, just Alira. That night, they stayed in a small guest home. It had soft beds, clean walls, and real food. Alira stood outside under the stars, breathing in the fresh air. Jack joined her, standing beside her in the cool breeze. "They let me starve," she said suddenly. Jack turned to her. "I know. They laughed while I begged." She continued. "They threw me away." Jack's eyes darkened. "I remember." She looked up at him. "But you didn't," she whispered. "You gave me something they never would." Jack stepped closer. "What?" She touched her chest. "Dignity," she said. "A name, a voice, a choice." Jack reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You gave me something too," he said. "I was drifting, fixing machines, avoiding life. But when I saw you, I woke up." They stood close now. No more guards, no cages, no fear. Only open air and 2 hearts that had finally found light. Alira looked into his eyes. "Can we stay here?" Jack smiled. "As long as you want." She leaned against him. "I want to build something," she whispered. "A home." He wrapped his arm around her. "Then let's build it, together." Behind them, the stars sparkled. Ahead, they're new. Life waited, and between them, no more fear. Only something strong, something real, something the world had once stolen from them, but that they had taken back with courage. Alira held his hand tightly and whispered, "They gave me pain, but you gave me hope." And Jack, looking out into the new world, replied, "Hope is how everything begins."